Hey there, it's John Ray, and I am going to be sharing some thoughts that I have about the coronavirus. I've been thinking a lot about this and feeling into it, and so today I would like to share the spiritual, metaphysical, and emotional meaning behind COVID-19, at least as I see it. Of course, everybody's having their own experience, and everyone is free to do whatever they want with their personal health, and I encourage everyone to go with their own knowing and their own wisdom. These are really more of a thought experiment, something that I'm noticing in my own life, and so I thought it would be interesting to share and have a conversation in the comments about this. So we'll be talking about the spiritual, metaphysical, and emotional causes and meaning behind the coronavirus. Controversial, I know. This is me, John Ray. If anything in this resonates, I'd love to continue the conversation on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. You can find me at John Ray. There I post daily posts for awakening entrepreneurs and generally badass people on a spiritual quest. If that's you, I'd love to connect with you there. Let's get into it. So, in order to really understand everything that I'm going to be talking about, the kind of the emotional causes of COVID-19 and the coronavirus, we kind of have to set up a framework. So I'm going to just move right into my slides. And really, the way that I see life as a mirror is these three different bodies. We have our soul, or the emotional body, we have our mind, or the psychological body, and then we have our body, or the physical body. And so I've got that showcased here as these concentric rings of green, yellow, and red. And basically, when everything is hunky-dory and we don't have any trauma and everything is going well, and we're aligned with what we're doing, then we have pure access to the potential creative flow that's available to us. So all of us have infinite access to creative flow, and when nothing is blocking that flow, it comes through our soul, into our mind, and down into our body. So everything at this infinite creative level that we could call God, or we could call creator, or we could call source, that comes first to our soul. Then our soul indicates to our mind, and our mind indicates to our body, and then vice versa. Our body is sending a signal back up to our soul, and that kind of creates this loop. So with that in mind, the thought experiment that I want us to explore today in this video is that all diseases, events, and relationships are a mirror. So life is a mirror showcasing something about us. And what this thought experiment that I want to explore says is that each event in our life is pointing to some kind of trapped energy. I'm gonna, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm touching where that energy might be trapped. So any disease, event, or relationship in our life is pointing to trapped energy that's looking to be released and transmuted back into creative potential. So to say that simpler, life shows us what we need to feel because we feel to heal. And to explore that a little bit more, we can look at a concept called Samskara from the East. So in Indian philosophy, a Samskara is like a mental impression or a trapped trauma. It would be like if in high school, somebody in a blue hat pushed you into the lockers and made fun of you, and that was a really embarrassing moment for you. Well, you might be triggered every time you see a blue hat now. So anytime a guy in a blue hat, shows up in your life, you're filtering that past experience onto the present moment because you haven't fully released the energy that you avoided and trapped by going out of body in that traumatic moment. And so there's some energy that got trapped in that past experience that wants to be released. And every time you see a blue hat and get triggered, that trigger is life showing you, hey, there's some energy that needs to be released there. So that could be called a samskara, or in the West, we call that the pain body. So Eckhart Tolle, has made the pain body famous through his various books and teachings and going on Oprah. And anytime we experience pain and anger, or really any negative emotions, quote unquote, our pain body will flare up, and if we don't have a full experience of the present moment, so if something traumatic happens to us and we bypass that moment, it's too uncomfortable for us, so we puff our energy out of body, or we go into a manic spin trying to avoid the discomfort of that present moment. Well, all of that gets trapped in the pain body, and then just like in the last example of the samskara, that energy gets filtered onto the present moment, and anytime we get triggered by something, it's showcasing some energy that's stuck in our pain body, or a samskara that needs to be released. So those are important concepts to know as we talk about the emotional, spiritual, and metaphysical roots of COVID-19. So we can have blockages at the body level, we can have blockages at the mental level, and we can have blockages at the soul or emotional level. And the key to removing those blockages is to be present with what we're feeling in each moment and allowing the full experience of those feelings. And so the analogy that I'll give you is that as we're experiencing life, it's like we're looking through a window, and we all start out looking at life through this clean window. We're this innocent baby, we're looking through a clean window, and then all this, any emotional trauma that happens in our life is like somebody throwing dirt against that window. So we're looking through a clean window, we have a trauma in our life, that's dirt on the window. If we don't feel through that trauma fully and release the energetic experience of that trauma, then we continue to have this dirt on the window. And so now everything that we see in our life is filtered through this kind of muddy lens. And as a child, we not only absorb the energy of our own traumas or our own bypassed traumas, but we also act as a sponge, absorbing our parents' and society's trauma. So unfortunately, there's this emotional inheritance that happens, and so we have all of this mud that gets slung on our window that isn't even ours. It's generational in nature. And when we avoid uncomfortable feelings, that avoidance manifests as more mud, more dirt on the window. So in order to clean the window and have an accurate representation and view of reality in our life, we have to feel through our feelings. We feel to heal, we feel the emotional energy, and as we feel through those uncomfortable feelings, they will dissolve, and that's like us cleaning the window so that we can have a more accurate view of the things happening in our lives. Okay, so let's talk about COVID-19. Some of the personal symptoms that people experience with COVID-19, as reported, are one, there's different people experience different symptoms. And so one of the things that has been so vexing or interesting, depending on your perspective about COVID-19, is that for some people it targets the upper respiratory system, which is your sinuses, your nose, and your throat. And for other people, it's targeting the lower respiratory system, lungs, and windpipe. And then some people are having symptoms that are completely anomalous, not either of those things. And so it has been perplexing and kind of confusing for the people studying this, at least from what I've read, to understand, well, what is COVID? Why is it causing different symptoms in different people? What is the reason for that? And so what I'm going to propose is that the symptoms that COVID-19 creates in someone is based on the trapped emotional energy that they have in their body. And I'll unpack that a little bit more in these next slides. So again, some of the personal symptoms were sinus, nose, and throat, lungs, windpipe. It's affecting all of those areas. Some of the societal symptoms are that we've got to wear a mask when we go out in public, which means we're hiding our face, we're limiting our communication. There's widespread fear and uncertainty right now. there's a mistrust and or a misplaced trust in authority right now. There's also of course, this is depending on your perspective. There's either a mistrust or a misplaced trust in information. There's a projection of anger towards others if you don't conform to the widespread narrative. And then there's isolation that's happening. We have to avoid others, and we have to avoid our life. We're being prevented from working. Many are being prevented from going out and seeing family, and so we're experiencing a kind of collective isolation like we haven't experienced, at least in my lifetime. So if you have studied spiritual metaphysical things at all, you've likely heard of the law of attraction. And the law of attraction, the way that I use the law of attraction, let me open up this slide so you can see the whole thing. So the mirror of reality is going to show us where we have that dirty window or that trapped energy. So the law of attraction, the events that we attract in our life, are always showing us where there's trapped energy in our system that needs to be released. So anything that causes us uncomfortable feelings, we attracted that event to be able to release the trapped energy in our system. So life triggers the feelings inside of us that need to be released for us to be able to align with a higher level of truth and love, and that's truth and love in their purest forms. So the more that we feel through our uncomfortable feelings, the more that we become a clear spiritual tube and channel for truth and love. So life is always positively processing us up in truth and love, and whatever life gives us is designed to clean off that dirty window. And so as we become present with our feelings in each moment, we clean our window, we begin seeing better, and that gives us access to better choices that are more in alignment with truth and love. So reality is actually showing us how we can become more loving people. So what I'm going to propose is that there's an energy upgrade happening on the planet. So COVID-19, in this hypothesis and theory that I'm presenting, COVID-19 is an energetic messenger designed to upgrade the energy frequencies that we all carry. So if you have base level energies trapped in your pain body, COVID-19 will target those energies for release from your system so you can move into the higher octaves of frequency that the planet is ascending into. So even though COVID-19 is seemingly a negative event, just like a lot of events in our lives are seemingly negative, all of those events are actually designed to soften the base level or the lower frequency energies that are trapped inside of us so that they can release. And I'll unpack that a little bit more. So the analogy that I'm going to use is this fishing bobber. So when a fishing bobber has no added weight on it, it's going to float on top of the water, right? But you can see here, I've added some fishing weights to it. So with all of this added weight, it's trapped under the water, and it can't float up to its full potential because it has too much added weight on it. And so as we release some of these fishing weights, the bobber is able to float back up to the surface, which is its highest potential. Well, Earth is doing something similar. So Earth is in the spectrum of energy, and the spectrum is between fear and love. So the base level energy that we kind of started off in is one of fear, and the planet is slowly ascending into a frequency of love. However, right now, it has all of this energetic weight on it. So those are things like the collective society's doubt, the deception that we're all projecting onto each other, our hate, our grief, our rage, our anger. These all act similar to those fishing weights that were anchoring down the fishing bob and preventing it from its highest potential. Well, Earth's highest potential is for us to live in a frequency of love, but all of these base level emotions and emotional energy that we have repressed and not felt is holding the planet back. However, the planet having its own consciousness is going to move towards love regardless. And so it has to invent things in order to release the emotional energy that we are not willing to consciously release. So what that looks like is as we start to release some of the emotional energy, Earth can start to ascend slowly as a collective society up towards love. And that's a beautiful thing because then we're all operating in a higher octave that's more in line with love and truth. And oftentimes chaos is the spinning mechanism that allows us to, that triggers the feelings that need to be felt so that we can all have a collective up-leveling experience. So the question is, how is COVID-19 helping the planet ascend? So my theory is that COVID-19 targets individuals who are carrying too many dense or base level energies within their body. These base level energies prevent the ascension into love, so COVID helps break up that energy and transmute it so the entire planet can ascend. So to say that simpler, there's too many people that are repressing the trauma that they've experienced over the course of their life. And that trauma collectively acts as fishing weights on the collective consciousness of the planet. But the collective consciousness of the planet wants to ascend into love and out of fear and hatred. So, in order to do that, it has invented, as nature does, a mechanism to break up the base level negative emotional energies that people are refusing to feel through. So, does everybody have to have COVID in order for us to ascend into love? No, because you can consciously do that work by feeling your feelings. So if you're unconscious to your own emotional energy and you've just shoved it all down, you've locked it tight, and you're just a miserable human being that refuses to feel your feelings, in this theory, you would be more likely to get COVID-19 because COVID-19 wants to break up some of that emotional energy that you're unwilling to break up yourself. So the fastest route for Earth to have this ascension process is to take all the unconscious people that refuse to feel their feelings and use this disease to break up that energy. And as you get COVID-19, you're kind of presented with an unconscious choice, if you're an unconscious person, of do you want to play the game in a higher octave of love, which means that you're going to have to be more present and conscious in your life, or are you kind of done with the game? And so potentially, in this theory, the people who die of COVID-19 have decided that they already completed what they wanted to complete on Earth, and so they already felt like they had a karmic completion, and because of that, they didn't need to ascend anymore because they kind of had already achieved that, and it was just their time to go. So that's some people. Other people decide, you know what, I don't want to go through the experience of having to ascend into higher energies, and so I want to go play a different game. So they perhaps COVID-19 allows them to have a transition into a different kind of game that isn't an Earth game, and it's something maybe in the spiritual realms that allows them to more effectively have conscious awareness of who they are as a spiritual, energetic being, and allows them to learn to play with that better. However, some people get the disease and they have either light symptoms or they have a miraculous recovery, and in the process of that recovery, enough of that emotional energy gets broken up that they're actually able to feel through it and transmute some of it so that they can now play this higher level octave, this higher frequency game that we're all moving into. So when we're consciously aware of our feelings and the emotional energy within our bodies, we can transmute that energy by being present with the feelings that we've been repressing and allowing them to express. And that actually makes us less susceptible to getting diseases, and I'll get into that in this next slide. So what is the emotional or spiritual root of COVID-19? Well, we kind of have to isolate, what are some of the symptoms. So we know that In many people, it attacks the lungs. And at the emotional and spiritual level, the lungs represent depression and grief, fear of life, fear of the world, not feeling worthy, having an inner conflict about something, not living our life fully enough, or not being engaged or present with our life, being offended about everything or irritated about everything. The lungs represent why or what we hate so much. So us projecting hate word out can give us respiratory issues, fear of being alone, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like I can't breathe, or like life has there's too much pressure from my life on me. Maybe I'm not making enough time or space for myself, and so that could give me lung issues. Questioning always what's the point, what's the meaning of life, not sure how to achieve my dreams, deep down feeling helpless, having a job that no longer satisfies me, unwilling to express my grief or sadness, a chapter of my life is coming to an end and I'm having trouble coping with it, or being stifled by responsibilities that I don't think I can escape. So this is some of my own ideas, and a lot of this comes from Louise Hay's Heal Your Body, or Jacques Martel's The Complete Dictionary of Ailments and Diseases. I suggest both of those books. But you can also just kind of feel into, in your own life, how have these things affected you, or your lungs are, your ability to breathe, your ability to have life. And so as we tune into the spiritual and emotional root of a disease like COVID-19, which is this catalyst for transformation, what it's trying to get us to do is address some of these issues that we may have in our life, or in our relationships and world. Now, the emotional spiritual root of the sinus and nose is not recognizing our own self-worth, having an irritation or not being able to stand someone in our life, feeling helpless, fear of some looming threat, whether that's a real threat or imagined, an inability to find the truth, fear of uncertainty, something just doesn't smell right, we're skeptical about something, fear of people doing things behind our back, we're resisting the things that nourish us. Maybe we've got diet problems, or maybe we're not giving ourselves enough self-care. We don't have a creative outlet, or we're not expressing ourselves creatively as much as we want to. We're not a decision maker in our lives, or we're in a constant place of indecision. We don't have any confirmation for our convictions. So sometimes we feel that something is right, but life doesn't really seem to confirm those convictions for us, or we have an inability to see those confirmations. Maybe we have old thought patterns that dictate our behavior. So that dirty window that we're looking through, where we're kind of projecting the past onto the present. Maybe we have a repressed anxiety that we're not willing to feel through, a fear of not being loved. We use other people as a crutch in our life. We can't really stand on our own. Or we have a need to assert our authority, but we can't seem to find a way to do that. Next, COVID in many people affects the throat. And so the emotional and spiritual root of the throat is not speaking up for myself, not speaking my truth, fear of ridicule, can't express my own opinions, remaining silent when I know I should speak up, lack of creative inspiration or a creative outlet, an inability to express my authority. Maybe somebody is too controlling in my life. I resent myself for something that I've done in the past. I have a desire to change, but I'm afraid of how that change is going to be received by others, so I don't do anything. A feeling like, this kind of ominous they is going to attack me if I do the thing I really want to do. This could also affect you. The emotional root of the throat could be that you're speaking too much for others. Maybe you're the controlling one. You're not allowing other people to have their own opinion or their own expression. You're always projecting your ideas and beliefs onto other people. And maybe you can't swallow the truth of your situation, or you regret making a choice. These are all the emotional and spiritual roots of the throat. So then let's look at kind of a collective thing that we have to do, the emotional spiritual root of the mask. So the mask says, I don't want to be seen. I'm willing to submit to someone else's will. I'm willing to take on someone else's agenda. I'm hiding my true intentions or my authentic expression. I'm not acting on my desires and passions. I have a fear of offending others, a fear of the unknown. There's a lack of trust that I have in others. I'm not willing to be seen. There's hidden things in my past, and I have a lot of shame and guilt about that I've repressed about that. Maybe I have a sense of someone betraying me, or maybe I'm betraying someone else. The mask represents doublespeak. I'm saying one thing, but I'm doing another. I'm living in this kind of turtle shell facade. I've invented a version of myself that I project for everybody to see, but it's not representative of how I actually feel or who I actually am. And so I'm projecting this version of myself that is not authentic out into the world. So those are kind of all the collection of all of those things are some of the emotional causes of something like COVID-19 in this thought experiment that we're exploring right now. So that doesn't have to be scary because we can heal all of those things. And the way that we do that is we feel to heal. So I'm going to propose that, as I did at the beginning, that all diseases, events, and relationships are a mirror, and they're each pointing to trapped emotional energy that's looking to be released and transmuted back into creative potential. So life is showing us always what we need to feel, and if we get something like COVID-19, it's taking us on an emotional exploration to help us break up some of that energy. And if we can be present with that and not resist the experience, whether we get COVID-19 or not, whatever is triggering us and showing up in our life, if we can be present with it, not judge it as bad, recognize that it's there to transform and transmute our energy into a higher octave of love and truth, and then find a sense of allowing for that experience, then a lot of times we can find the path or way to navigate something in a much more successful way than when we're in resistance to it. So some examples of trapped energy, or things that we would need to feel in order to release the emotional energy that would be triggered by something like COVID-19, would be any negative emotion or quote unquote bad feeling. Those uncomfortable feelings are all a signal that your body is ready to release some trapped energy. So it's easy to kind of spin into this manic place and not want to confront that discomfort. We want to immediately spring into some kind of action to get rid of those uncomfortable feelings. And that actually creates a law of attraction event where life is going to keep inspiring discomfort in us and keep triggering us with uncomfortable events until we're willing to sit with that emotional energy. Because what life is always trying to do is upgrade us in love and truth. And we can't upgrade in love and truth unless we feel through some of that stuck energy. So if we will sit with those uncomfortable feelings without judging them and just lend our attention to those feelings, we'll begin to soften those. And then after 10, 20 or more minutes of that, of just sitting quietly with those feelings and noticing them in our body, they will usually start to dissolve. And so another thing that we can do in that moment is name the emotion that we have. And this is especially true if you're having trouble tracking the energy of your emotions in your body, because your emotions are just energy. And we are a spiritual tube through which that emotional energy is traveling. So there's a lot of times we will identify as the emotion. So we'll say, I'm sad, I'm angry. And a more interesting experiment to have with your emotions would be to say, I have anger inside of me. I have sadness inside of me, because it's an energy that doesn't have to be you. It's just currently in your spiritual tube. And so when we feel our feelings and lend attention to those uncomfortable feelings without any judgment, that attention to our negative feelings acts as spiritual Drano that cleans out our spiritual pipe. So if you're having trouble finding the feelings in your body, you can write down on a sheet of paper the name of the emotion, and then just list out all the times or scenarios that you've ever felt that emotion, and use that to go deeper into the emotion, and keep writing until you can't remember any other times that you experience that emotion, and just feel anything that comes up. Look for any type of energetic movement in your body, and what you're doing is you're transmuting that trapped emotional energy back into creative potential. And that's where all the clarity and excitement and enthusiasm for life lives. So if you felt dead or depressed, you know, in your life and just going through the motions, it's likely that you have some trapped energy that is ready to release. And if you'll allow yourself to feel the discomfort that is triggered at any moment, you can transmute that energy, and then life doesn't have to trigger you in that way anymore. So you feel all the energy that comes up and just watch it move through your body. And then as this energy comes to the surface and dissolves, you transmute it back into creative potential. And that's a really interesting experience. And a lot of times when you get to the end of a negative feeling, you'll actually have this kind of moment of laughter, because it's so funny to finally be rid of that energy that you've been repressing all this time. So the thought experiment that we're exploring is that all diseases, events, and relationships are a mirror. And what that mirror of life is showing us is the trapped energy in our system that is looking to be released and transmuted back into creative potential. So life shows us what we need to feel. And if we will feel through that rather than spinning over it in some kind of a manic spin, or shoving it down and not acknowledging it, then life no longer, through the law of attraction, has to trigger us in those ways, and we will naturally start to have a up-leveling or upgrade experience in the things in our lives. And so we can feel through the discomfort that we have on any given subject, and immediately the bobber will start to rise back up to the top of the water. So let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts on this, or if this resonated with you. Of course, I want everybody to be safe and listen to your own guidance. We're all having our own experience, and so be sure to honor your own beliefs when it comes to your own health and well-being. This is a thought experiment, and just something that I wanted to share because it's kind of the lens through which I view the world, and it's allowed me to upgrade in my relationships, in my connection to God, in my ability to have a divine plan enacted through me, in my businesses, in my finances, in my friendships. When you start to feel your feelings on every single subject, you can really have this beautiful upgrade experience in all things. And so as a spiritual business consultant, I use the mirror of reality to help people find out what they need to feel through, and the energy blocks that they need to dissolve in order to have that up-leveling experience. So if you're an entrepreneur and you want to use the mirror of life to grow your business, well, if any of this was interesting to you, and you want to dive a little bit deeper, I'd love to show you the exact actions that you need to take over the next 30 days to be able to make $10,000 or more every single month using spiritual leverage. This is a system that I've developed that works very well for me. I have been a marketing and entrepreneurial consultant for almost 20 years now, and throughout all of that, I've been experimenting with different spiritual practices to take those practical sales and marketing techniques and give them leverage, throw gasoline on that fire so that people can focus on their gifts. I want all spiritual people, no matter what your business is, whether you're a coach or running a brick and mortar business or a consultant or a massage therapist or a car detailer, I believe that everybody should be able to live their passion and make money doing it. And I feel like I have been very fortunate to be gifted with a process that has allowed me to do just that. and I would love to share it with you. So if anything in this video resonated with you and you're looking to upgrade your finances, your business, and your ability to help more people, or if you or and because they go collectively together, you want to use the mirror of life to better understand the energy that you've been repressing, then head on over to mindbodysale.com and I'd love to work with you. Leave your comments on this video for your own ideas about COVID-19 and the spiritual and emotional roots that you've noticed. And I'd love to continue this conversation either in the comments or on Instagram. You can follow me at John Ray, JONRAY. And I thank you so much for hearing me out on this and going down the rabbit hole. We'll see you next time.